Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chain Film Festival. I am joined today with David Ray and Devin Anderson. They are the filmmakers behind Let's Celebrate. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking time out of your day to join us. I know you all have extremely busy schedules celebrating.
Yeah.
So I need to jump right in because this seems like such a pandemic-centered piece.
No.
Was this based on any real events?
It's vaguely, yes. Vaguely and somewhat strongly, if you want to, however you look at it, really.
Oh, wow. So that's a definite yes.
Yes, it is. I think it started me and Devin spend lockdown together for about 3 months. And it was in my neighborhood of Washington Heights, which if you live in Manhattan or you just know the Heights, you know that, if you live there, it can be a little noisy. And so, truth be told, that is the most accurate part of the movie, is the sound parts, the parts where there's noise outside. That's the most definitely accurate part. And everything else is a take on what was happening during lockdown. And I think, if you've seen the movie, the bed bugs bit at the beginning of why he couldn't go back to work, that's the only small portion of me talking about the pandemic. It's like, I don't want to be on the nose, but I do want to give a reason for not being able to leave the house. So that was, yeah.
Devin, you seem to have some pretty strong feelings about the noise.
Yeah. My apartment is in Astoria, which is a little more suburban in terms of the feel. And basically, when lockdown happened, I was with David and I stayed with David thanks to his gracious nature. And I had never really stayed in the Heights before, and I'd never really been accustomed to just, I suppose, the general noise level. I mean, people there, like, especially on the weekends, they'll just kind of park out on their stoop, especially because everybody's in lockdown. So they don't really have things to do or places to go because you can't go anywhere. So they just sit out on their stoop and they bring speakers that like you might buy for $100, and they like strap them to their cars and they play music well into the night. Like David and I had many a nights where it was like 4 a.m. and like we had called the 411 to file a noise complaint, and it's helpless. Like they don't do anything because it's the Heights, and that like a noise complaint just doesn't go anywhere. So I wasn't accustomed to it. So when we were coming up with the idea for Let's Celebrate, and we were like thinking of things that were outlandish for being stuck, I was like, well, let's do the general noise level, and that was just it. That was it.
I love it. So I want to ask if there was anything challenging about filming this, or if there were any complicated shots. But I think part of that is, did the noise, I know the noise was added into the film, but did it ever get in the way?
Yeah. I was about to say the biggest challenge was the noise level.
Yeah.
I mean, technically speaking, because of that bit, if it was actually happening, it didn't really matter. Because, it was just like, oh yeah, there's a bit. I mean, there was moments where we wanted some silence and we found them. But for the most part, if it was noisy outside, it didn't really matter because that was going to be part of the process. So we were working with that. I think the only technical problem that we had is like, it was the two of us. It was lockdown. If you look at the movie, there's only maybe 2 or 3 or 4 shots that the camera moves, that there's a panning. Mm-hmm. And that's why we got a coworker of ours to come in. This is a coworker of ours that has been in lockdown completely, did not leave his house. This was the first outing he had, and to come he lived in Inwood, if I remember correctly, and he came down just for those 3 panning shots because we could literally not do it. Like the beginning shot of us going, let's celebrate, yeah, that's 3 takes with our friend Jason Michael Miller just helping the timing and everything. And that was it. And everything else was me and Devin. So those were the problems that we could not have done without some help.
And God bless Jason. Jason has zero experience holding a camera. So like, again, it was just kind of the circumstances. We were in the area and we wanted to get a filmmaker to help us, someone that knew the basics of a camera. But no, everybody was in lockdown. Everybody was gone. Everybody was miles away or had left the state. So then we were just like, okay, well, we just need a human being that can, move the camera up. And so thankfully Jason stopped by, and we just we did it 1,000 times with him, and he was just a trooper. He was so lovely.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was actually a question I had during this. I'm like, I know it's just the two of them. So how is the camera doing that? Nice job. And it's congratulations to you guys for being able to get somebody out of lockdown to come down to you to help. Because during the whole thing, I'm like, this is great. These two guys did this all on their own. How is that happening? But I mean, throughout the whole film, though, fantastic use of angles, fantastic use of camera work. And I also want to kind of go into really nice use of practical effects. And I don't mean the fireworks outside, but there's a moment where the apartment building across the street, of course, lights on fire.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. Spoiler alert. There's a fire in our movie.
But I won't say more because I think people need to watch it. Yeah. But when you're looking out the window and looking at it, the lighting is fantastic. The lighting is so good. And I'm unless you managed to truly get that apartment building on fire, that was a practical effect.
It was like we had toyed with so many different ideas on how to do an effect, because the concept of the script was like, okay, it's just going to get worse, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse. And we were like, where can it go? And then we were like, well, it's already pretty much riots outside going on. Like, can we just have a building across the street be on fire? It's like, okay, how do we do this? And at one point, I feel like we toyed with the idea of just going downstairs, like out onto the street, and just asking people in the streets, being like, could you light that building on fire for our movie that we're doing? And like, I'm sure people would have been like, yeah. But David came up with a very clever technique. David, you want to jump in here?
Well, for the actual fire, I had these Home Depot light bulbs that flicker.
Nice.
A flame image. And so those were literally in front of the camera. And then for the siren lights, those were iPads with the siren light app.
Yeah.
Do you know what? To be perfectly honest, that's what I assumed it was.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it's just these two guys in an apartment. That's probably a phone or an iPad. Yeah. Just blinking blue. And
the iPad was big enough to fill both our faces in the shot, and just turn the brightness up, and it's literally red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, and then the flickering in front, and then turn everything else off. Turn every other light. Thankfully, there's a blackout, so that also
the real hope was that there was someone just kind of like, because we're all in lockdown, so we're all bored out of our minds. Someone Rear Window style is just kind of looking out their windows, and they see David and I just staring out of our window, one of us holding a lamp that is just like fire, and another holding an iPad that has red and blue lights on us, and we're just staring out the window. So hopefully someone got a good night out of that.
Yeah, no, well, for that shot, like, because we start the shot with, and then the fire comes in and whatnot, and so Devin is off camera. His hand is off camera with the dimmer. So whenever we start shooting, he just like, oh wow, and then he just dims, and then no one knows. So
it's such a smart use of what you have around you. And the effects play perfect. They play absolutely perfect. So congratulations on that. It reads so well.
Thanks.
How long did this take to film?
It was supposed to be one night, and then it definitely took like 2 weeks.
When you're on lockdown, you're like, oh, I can rewrite. Oh, we can redo this. Oh, it's like, my beard isn't as bushy. That's fine. That's good. Like, if you really look at it, if you really look at some of the last shots in the movie, my hair is longer and my beard is a little bit longer as well. But nobody's really paying attention to that. But we did have definitely like a week to redo some of the ending. And then another week just to finish the Taken bit, the bit where Devin does the Taken monologue. Because of the two of us, I couldn't get because of the movement on camera of Devin, I being in the shot, I couldn't rack focus to get it so it like he's in focus. So I had to tell Devin, okay, you can't you can't move an inch forward or an inch back when you start talking, because if you do, you'll be completely out of focus.
Yeah.
And doing that is not as easy as it sounds when no one's looking at the camera.
Especially during like a pandemic when like we all have anxiety with getting close to other human beings.
Yeah.
David is like, okay, you need to get 2 inches from my face and you can't move forward and you can't move back. And I'm pretty sure that was the last time I've ever been that close to another human being. So
Yep. We definitely had to, we definitely were in quarantine long enough, everyone, where we could share our own ecosystem and, you know, make it our own. But even though, yes, we did have to do some close shots that might have not been the most comfortable things, but you know, art.
It's what you do for art. So gentlemen, is there any other work that you've got going on? Are there any other projects that you're working on, or is there some place that maybe some of your work is being produced that people can see it? Or just in general, where can people see some of your work that might not be, let's say, in a festival or anything like that? Where can people see the things you do?
My work can be seen on Vimeo. You can vimeo.com/David Ray, David Rey. You can see not this short yet, but definitely a bunch of other silly things that I've done, and with Devin as well. Some of those things. Yeah, that's mainly it. As of right now, me and Devin have talked about bits. I won't speak for him, but I know we've talked about bits, but yeah, always something brewing. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that reminds me, David, since I haven't seen you in a while, I have an idea for a movie.
Okay, cool. Give us a second, Patrick.
Yeah, give us a minute and we'll get back to you.
And ladies and gentlemen, you're witnessing the magic of film festivals right now. This is what they're all about, collaboration.
Yeah.
If you're seeing this right now, like jump in, get on the ground floor right here. We're building empires, so look us up.
We love bits.
This is great.
We love bits.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. This was an absolute pleasure talking to you as always. And the film is a fantastic film. It's so much fun and it moves at such a great pace. I had such a blast watching it. I watched it several times and then showed it to several friends because they needed to watch it. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, of course. So thank you so much for submitting to the festival. Thank you for taking time out of your busy days. David, it looks like you're having a really busy day at home. Devin.
Oh yeah, I'm swamped.
Is working. And but for joining us here today and
my pleasure, man.
Being able to share with all the people that are here at the Chain Film Festival.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the
Patrick.
time, man. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the Chain Film Festival.
Thank you, man. Be here. Second time.
Yeah, no, I'm talking with Pete McNamara. Pete McNamara brought to our festival Percy and Becky Meet for Lunch. Great.
Oh, it's that one. That one.
Oh, is that one? How many films do you have going on out there right now?
The multitude. The multitude of two.
I'd love to start off talking about this one and specifically talking in terms of the music in this one, because the music really drives it, but accentuates it. It's almost like watching a silent film. The music is in a way like another character. So what was the process for you for scoring it?
It's funny because, you know, as a sort of the all-around filmmaker, I came up in music. I am by upbringing. I'm a musician. I've played trumpet for 30 years. That's really what the first part of my life was about. So as it relates to filmmaking, I don't see it as any other lesser part of filmmaking than the editing, than the photographer, than the dialogue, than the writing, whatever. It's like it's all integrated. So I guess at first I was feeling a little bit of the Charlie Brown kind of vibe from Vince Guaraldi. I have some local guys around here that play local jazz bar. They're phenomenal, internationally known young New York jazz musicians, and I kind of wanted to bring them into the fold, recreate a jazz waltz kind of thing, because I like the waltz as a lope as kind of a sort of an innocent kind of thing. A 6 that goes to a 5. 5 goes to Percy's character because he's the awkward one, so he's got a beat missing. 6 goes to the girl because she's kind of groovy and she's in the rhythm. It's quite a metaphor there. I did think that in advance. It wasn't an act. But but it was really kind of a decision to slam into it right at the beginning. What role it was going to play, because it could just be sort of a way background role, but I kind of had to commit, and it was a little bit terrifying because I didn't know if it was any good. I was like, is this going to work? I don't know. I'm a jazz guy, so jazz is always going to work for me, but that's not to say it's going to work for others. The first time I heard it in like Mo Better Blues, Spike Lee's films with Terrence Blanchard, an old schoolmate of mine, was scoring. I felt it was a little awkward, but since then it's become a little bit more part of the vocabulary. So I just committed to it and I slammed in right away. And and I did a little bit of scoring, nudging here and there as far as cutting musically to the picture,
Sure.
to the music. And I was happy with the outcome. I thought it came off as you say, kind of a strong statement musically. The lightness, the innocence. Everything's basically going to go okay, and that was November last year.
Boy, were you wrong.
I had just finished writing a whole stage play for down here at the Creek, a sketch variety show, and it was the opposite. It was all about dark, nasty, horrible human behavior, the consequences, the reckoning of the human species that was yet to come. And that's where I found Ibrahim, my lead actor, and he came in. We never got the show on its feet because my main girl got thrown in the slammer 2 days before the show. I knew I loved her. But so on the heels of having all that kind of sort of just presenting the nasty side of human nature, I just wanted to lighten up. Ibrahim needed a scene for his reel, literally, that was not a thug or a drug dealer or the classic, young black actor stereotypes. And I said, let me write you a young medical student, and it pretty much wrote itself, man. It took me like 20 minutes to write that thing because it was just so sweet. And I also really, this is one of the themes that I'm pursuing in general, is that I'm trying to bring back the nature of teasing one another as a form of affection. And they tease one another, and it's not bruising. These are not microaggressions. These are actually expressions of affection. And I wish we would bring some of that back, because everyone's just scared of their own shadow these days and touchy. And it's like, man, we can still have some fun, right? I mean, as long as we're not crossing the lines of, those of us who are woke, I don't like that word so much, but, are aware of, I think we need to be poking fun a little bit more,
I'm glad that you brought up the teasing, because that's something that I wanted to talk to you about. I know I mentioned, my brain right away went to silent film when I hear the music, because the music carries it so well. But their repartee, their dialogue is very, I would say, on par with some of the films around like the 30s and 40s, some of Katharine Hepburn stuff, where it's very fast-paced repartee, and we're wounding each other with our words, but we're really flirting with this very sort of fast-paced dialogue. And I felt like there was some of that, and you just brought it up, there's some of that in the dialogue of they're not insulting each other, but it's just this nice little wordplay, talking to each other and flirting, and it's just innocent flirting.
It is, and it's nonchalant, it's matter of fact. He's black of African descent, she's white of Polish descent, and that factors into it not at all. They're just in love. They're sweetie pies, and they play with one another. And there's nothing. It's just cool. You know what I mean? You get the sort of well. First of all, I insist my actors talk fast. They need to know their lines, and they must talk fast, because the way that you and I are talking now extemporaneously is faster than you think. If you were to the way we are talking now extemporaneous, that's how a lot of actors come into it. It's like, you don't get to do that. You can do that in between the dialogue, in your pauses, in your realizations, decisions. But when you're talking, I want you to boom, boom, boom. And people overlap all the time. So we need to overlap dialogue. And that, that's in there as well. So I think that it may have an old feel to it, because that's how they used to do things. Katharine Hepburn is a great example, man. Todd Haynes is one of my favorite directors. He did this amazing movie that nobody saw called Wonderstruck. And it starts in the 20s with a deaf girl in black and white. And then there's a little boy, a couple of generations later, a black boy, who's Also deaf, hard of hearing. God, I hope that's right.
It's all right.
And they both have these little trajectories that collide at the Natural History Museum, generations apart. It's one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. I don't think that film instructed me, but now that I say it out loud, maybe it did, because I did see it before I made Percy Becky. But same kind of thing, a sweetness and innocence, and like, you know, there are still good things in the world, like puppy love.
Yeah.
And nothing. And puppy love in the environment of COVID, of plague, of war, and everything. It's still puppy love, you know. And it's still the sweetest thing on earth. It's still one of the good things we can hang on to, you know.
We definitely see that in this film. I also want to talk about filming in New York City, and specifically New York City as a background. But this is a New York-based festival, so we're getting a lot of stuff from New York. And so it's a good question to ask different filmmakers. Any challenges to putting New York City in the background of your film?
In the background?
Well, I mean, I just like filming within the city.
Yeah, I mean, it goes with, you know, that's my old block. I know the neighbor who has the house where the alcove was. We actually did that, used it for little holding area. And we just winged it. I'll tell you something. I don't know why, but I've been on so many productions where Kismet just favors the production in one way after another that really didn't have to happen. This happened in the last thing I did too, Sartorius, but it's like things just fell into place. The people crossing the street, they were wearing exactly the right wardrobe at exactly the right time. The light changed properly. The cab came by just gave me something to cut to, and it's like, God damn, this is perfect. And I was just New York, being New York. Mm-hmm. I think maybe just going with the flow of it. And you get as many takes as you can. You can't get that many. You got to move on. But no, it was basically a matter of shooting in my neighborhood. Most of the people around I knew, and things just fell into place. The swings in the park, the pigeons, you know, I don't know. It's just I got the LaGuardia Community College to sub for a hospital because my next door neighbor teaches English there, you know, and she got in as an extra as a doctor in the hallway, you know. So I mean, you know, if you've been here any length of time, you get to, you know, utilize your resources, hopefully, that you've earned, you know.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Pete, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. And thanks for submitting your film. It's a great little film.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of fun, and it does have like a really nice heart, and it is very upbeat. So I really enjoy watching it, and I'm so glad that we're able to share it to a wider audience.
Hopefully it's something for the times, you know.
Hopefully.
Remember this?
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Chained Film Festival. I am talking with filmmaker Derek Nicoletto, who brought to the festival this year his short film, Brunch in Babel. How you doing?
Good.
Thanks for joining us today. I know things are a little different right now, but we're so glad that you were able to take some time out of your day to sit down and talk with us about your film.
Thank you.
Yeah. So one of the things that really stands out when I watched this was that mounting tension in it, which just wound me up. So good job. So how was that filming and editing, making sure that was something that was not, because it's really easy to skip a step or skip a beat, but you had a really nice climb to this moment where everything sort of snaps. And so I was just wondering if you could just talk a little bit about the filming process, but also editing, because we're going to make sure that it's edited correctly to get that level of tension correct.
Well, we knew that most of this film was going to be made in post. Mm-hmm. We knew that going in, so we planned for it, you know, and I meant for the whole piece to be very musical. Mm-hmm. You know, it was a play first that I just a short play that I did at the New York Theater Festival, and you know, we had smack of fork, smack of plate, cough, June. So it was like planning it was like writing the music of the play. It was very much like writing the music of the film. You had to see how it was going to be edited kind of first, so that we knew that we had all the elements there, so that we could make almost this little, it's not a, I mean, I've made music videos before, but it was almost like a little music video. And so, you know, I think when we knew when we wanted it to play like a song, then we knew how we wanted it to arrange, how to arrange it. And then none of the filming made sense to the actors. But of course, you know, and I just kept having to say, you just have to trust me. You just have to trust me. But and then at one point when you have 13 actors in one little room, and you just have to say, everyone's in timeout, and this isn't going to make any sense. And of course, you know, you never film sequentially anyway, but this was super weird because we would do like cough, gag, turn around, where's my purse? Ooh, because I just knew I wanted it to go cough, turn, gag, scream, where's my purse? You know, I knew how the music sounded in my head, and I kept having to like go into my like little private corner and play the thing through. And then Greg Roderick was my first AD and the editor, so that helped, right? Because I was like, remember, this is supposed to go boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, and then and then we were able to together explain it to Jamie Lawrence, who did, and Bill Donnelly, who did the sound design, so that we could design the sound to bring that crescendo that you hear, coupled with Greg's editing and my insanity. So that's why I think it works. I mean, it was supposed to be just a short film, and it got very experimental, and I'm all right with that.
Well, I mean, it's a great film, and the beat that's in it that you're describing, that definitely helps drive it. That pace, it moves it along, and so it's not only the what the actors are doing, but all of those sounds that you're talking about. It is very musical. It really is. With the spatula, the hamburger, the bell, all of this stuff that comes through, and it really helps drive it up to that moment. And we want that moment. As an audience member, I'm waiting for it because there's only so much you can take. And when it happens, it's such a great release, such a beautiful release of all of that tension. And it seems like one of the things that I took away when I was watching it is that peak moment right before is the moment where Catherine is choking. And that's the thing that, okay, finally we have a break in this tension, in the pattern that you've built up. And it's an agent for change is her choking. And it's very interesting that you went to that moment, and that's the thing that changes it, because death is a big agent for change, but even accidents and things along those lines. Or tragedy itself. And I feel like there's this builds to a tragedy, and then we have a big shift. Was that something that, I know you said it started out as a play, so was it always something you were going to go to something almost tragic and then move out of there? Or was it more of we're going to build to a crescendo and then change?
Well, I'm so not religious, but I got so into this story about like Genesis and like and then the Pentecost happens. So Genesis was the Tower of Babel, right? And no one's listening to each other. So that was my concept in my theme, is that no one's listening to each other. And like Taylor doesn't even realize it's her grandmother sitting behind her. You know, it's like, grandma, what? Where's my bell? Ding. I love that kitchen bell because it was so great. But when you're talking about the change in the play, so in the scripture, I haven't entered this into any religious things because I just don't feel like I would be lying if I was said I was trying to make a faith film. But it could pass. I mean, because the scripture says that whoever shall call my name shall be saved, right? So in the play, and Bruce, there's so much going on. There's choking and all this kind of stuff. what's happening? And he stands and he goes, God, because he can't think it anymore. But we didn't, that moment kept not working in filming. Let's just say that. Like some things just don't go your way.
Sure.
And so we used cutting and the choking and all of the like mania and just the tragedy of just a self-obsessed young lady not knowing her own grandmother was had a lunch helper, you know, and she's sitting across the table from her college roommate and she doesn't even remember what she does, you know. And then and just all the chaos. So what I was trying to do was make the chaos go faster and faster and faster and faster until God, who is Chelsea Beers, who's a very good friend of mine, he's a comic in San Francisco. I was able to, we filmed this in February, so I was able to fly her out here to do the part.
Just in time.
Just before we weren't, right? And so, so it's that chaos that finally makes God intervene to say, you know what? The Babel experiment has gone too far. Like no one's listening to each other, and like I have to intervene, and she intervened. So it was kind of the cutting that I tried to create. I mean, in the play, it was very literal with the God, but it just didn't work. Like that's the cool thing about cinema is like what you think is going to work on the stage, which is so wordy. You have so many other tools. Oh my God, all my theater people are I went to Atlantic and Indiana and all these people are gonna hate me for saying this, but you have so many tools with sound design and editing and lighting and just the cuts that we have in cinema, all these tools that can create the same effect, but don't have to be so on the nose where he screams God and then God intervenes. We created the feeling that God needed to intervene.
And you did.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to film this?
2 days.
2 days. Okay. And I feel like that a short amount of time specifically for this type of piece probably helped with some of the tension. Because you said you had a cast of what, 13 people in a small little restaurant. Were there any challenges? And maybe it was time because you only had 2 days, but you're in a small little cafe restaurant. Were there any challenges to filming in that during this process?
So I live 2 blocks so I'm in Harlem, and we try to use we use all Harlem catering, all Harlem location. Some of our actors are from Harlem, so and I also just frankly wanted to go back and forth to my house really quickly. So one of my favorite restaurants is called Osteria Laura, and so I've gotten to know her because it's very neighborhoody around here. You know, you just know the people who own the restaurants and such. And so Laura offered the upstairs was the stage, and the whole downstairs was our green room, and where we got to store all of the equipment. And we had 2 entrances on each side that wouldn't disturb the set.
That's great.
So when I didn't need so-and-so, most of them, I could hear them partying and being a little too loud, you know. So I just sent a couple of PAs down, the meanest looking PAs down to tell them to shush, right? So I didn't have as many problems as you would think because my location was a dream.
That's great.
It was one room with a basement that was exactly the same size, if not bigger.
That's fantastic.
And they catered Italian food for us for lunch.
See, you can't beat that.
It was right there. We had to like go 3 steps, and there was our lunch.
I mean, it sounds like the perfect set, to be honest.
Yeah.
Derek, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for submitting your film and allowing us to share it with our community. And thanks for taking time out of your day to sit down with us, to talk about your film. It's a great piece. I love that it's a part of our festival. And again, thank you so much for giving us a little peek inside of your filmmaking process.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for including Brunch of Babel.
I'm talking with Ethan David, who is behind This Is What I Look Like Naked. Thank you for joining us, Ethan. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Sure. No, thanks. This was a lot of fun, this little short to watch. So thank you, first of all, so much for submitting it to the festival and giving us a chance to watch it and enjoy it. And I have to ask right away because this song got stuck in my head. I hope that was your goal. And if that was your goal, that's a really mean goal. But what was the process like to come up with a song? Well, just to come up with the song behind this whole short.
Yeah, I mean, we recorded the song about 2 months before we went into production. The script wasn't even really finalized at that point. I knew like I wanted it to revolve around this song that was like an inside joke between the two friends. And we had joked about like, you know, trying to make it sound like legit, trying to make it sound catchy. But I give a lot of credit to the music producer, Doug Wydick. He's based in Brooklyn. Really incredible artist, producer, composer, and Nimini Ware, who is the lead vocalist in the song, and she plays Nevin in the movie. And so who just laid down amazing vocals. And the two of them are really just incredible. That the song came out just so much better than I ever imagined. And I was like, oh my God, I need to really A, get the script like done, and B, like, you know, really make that sort of part of the jokes is how like kind of you know, like catchy this is, because it is the idea of the film is that like, you know, it's something that was very personal to these two main characters that suddenly it's like an inside joke that suddenly millions of people are in on the inside joke. So we did need it to be something catchy.
And it is. It's definitely a catchy song that gets stuck in there. So you did it. Well done.
Thank you. That is the goal, to answer your question. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, you succeeded. I also want to ask about there's a very wonderfully simple montage in the karaoke bar where we see basically all of the worst people that you always encounter in a karaoke bar. And so my question to you was that scripted, or did you give freedom for the actors to just play and find all of those sort of stereotypical karaoke bar characters?
Yeah, that was the part I was the most stressed about for the movie, like going into production, and it was the part I had the most fun with, and I was really like enjoyed the most. I think just having like all the extras there, it's always stressful when there's like extras involved in moving parts, but like everyone was just like really like getting into it and created a really fun energy on set that it really felt like we were in a karaoke bar singing. And so, yeah, there was the script and we hit all those lines, but we definitely improvised a lot. We definitely played around with, you know, we just, you know, this is kind of like a lock shot on each person. We didn't get too crazy with the camera work. We wanted to really just be able to just throw stuff at the actors. And so every time someone went up, you know, they would do the first sort of take, and then I throw some lines at them. They would improvise some stuff. And it was very clever, like the sound person would throw out some ideas, the PA would throw ideas. It's really like a fun situation. That's why I'm saying like it was like my favorite part of the whole production. So it's like just a fun energy where we were all just kind of like having fun together. And then in editing, we just kind of chiseled it down. You know, there's a lot that we didn't use. Yeah. And yeah, so it's a bit of a mix, I would say, in between like improvised and like scripted, but I'd say mostly improvised in terms of what actually ended up in there.
Well, definitely that sense of fun and joy completely came through because it's such a fun scene to watch. And remember, I know I laughed because I've seen all of those people or those versions at some point in a karaoke bar.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you did it.
Yeah, we tried to hit the archetypes.
Yeah, you did. Now I know you're also a comedy writer, so I was wondering if there's any of this story that is true in the sense that have you ever gone through and mined maybe your past and some of your own inside jokes you might have with somebody and try to retool for mass consumption?
Yeah, I think I definitely relate to the film more on an emotional level rather than like plot points that I can say like that actually happened to me. I think there's definitely like I was thinking a lot when I was writing this about like my best friend in high school. There was that song Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance, where we just like had like a dumb little dance that we would do to like the opening piano bit. We just kind of pointed our fingers in the air to like the somber piano melody. It's like a fun, goofy dance, but to like a very somber piano melody that plays in the beginning. And it was just like, it's like a song that's like has mass appeal. It's like it was a hit song. It was you know, like millions of people have listened to Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance, but like no one else has that specific connotation, association with it that like start going like this in the beginning. So it's like it's sort of taking ownership over something that has otherwise this huge mass appeal And I think that's sort of what is happening in this film, is that this character Zoe, she like, feels this ownership over the song way more than like anyone should, because she was part of like the genesis of it. But like, and I think it's just like, you know, seeing everyone else just sort of celebrating in a more like kind of third party way is what's sort of driving this sort of nostalgia in her, and examining her own life.
Well, and her frustration and I think exasperation in seeing people consuming it on such a huge level. Like I can like relate to that. You don't get it. You weren't there. You don't get it. And she does a great job of allowing us to follow along with that emotional journey, because
Absolutely.
it is a really nice arc to where she's just kind of goes pretty low.
And it's a testament to, I was gonna say, it's a testament to Cami Dimitrova, the actor, who's really, we shot this so out of order. I know every movie's like that, but I was impressed on how she checked in on like, where am I at in the emotional arc of the character right now? Like, you know, where, because it does sort of heighten her like frustration throughout the film. And she was very great at like checking in on that and making sure like, okay, well, it's a little bit elevated. We shot that scene yesterday morning, so I should be a little bit less now that it's like a scene before that. And it's really a tremendous actor, I think.
And I can say like there's definitely a smooth arc. So there's no moment in it where she missed a beat. She does a really good job of maintaining that. How long did it take you to film this?
We filmed it in 3 days.
Nice.
One weekend, like the Saturday, Sunday, and then the following Saturday. We actually filmed it in mid-February, so 2 weeks before the city went into total lockdown. And we were on set talking about how, like, I think there was one confirmed case in Chicago of coronavirus, and we were just like talking like, oh wow, if that came to New York City, that'd be horrible. And then it's like, and then it became the biggest hotspot.
It came to New York City,
It came to New York City. You may have heard.
Well, Ethan, thank you so much. This was such a joy to talk to you. Thank you so much for submitting your film to the festival. It's a great short. It's a lot of fun to watch. And it's a really annoying song. So thanks so much. It's not that annoying, but it gets stuck in your head. And so I love that you managed to
it's a little annoying.
but you hit on it, and it's definitely an earworm where it gets stuck in there. So this talk was so much fun. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your day to log in these unprecedented times. And it really was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to the Chain Film Festival. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for the plug. I have with me today Gerard Zara, who is behind my new pants. Welcome. Thanks so much for making this film and submitting it to the festival. This was a lot of fun to watch and to go on this journey.
It's definitely a journey. You end up in an interesting place by the end.
And so I first want to start off with something that struck me at the very beginning, which was your use of color. In that very opening shot, we've got some nice bright pops of color. There's the bright yellow, bright blue in that like opening title shot. And then throughout the film, the color just kind of starts to slowly fade away as we get darker and darker. So how intentional was that? And if it was intentional, how difficult was it to make sure that we're going to slowly get darker and darker and not suddenly go from bright colors to darkness?
Right.
If you want to talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Parts were intentional, parts weren't. I mean, certainly we knew the tone from the beginning was going to be a little more fun, a little more of a straight comedy, a little absurd. And then, of course, you know, the yellow pants were very intentional. I just thought there's some hot pants. But, you know, when we were shooting, I think you're thinking of the opening scene. There's like an opening shot when he's at like a blue and yellow garage. We were actually going to shoot at like a garage across the street, which is like a standard brown wall or something. And then we just stumbled in front of that, and then literally the opportunity presented itself. It was a pure coincidence. Yeah. And then from there, we kind of had like a motif with color, and we later on went to shoot. There was a scene when he was with his girlfriend, and then actually our actor, Mike McBride, suggested that she wear blue because we kind of have this blue-yellow clashing thing. So yeah, bits and pieces are intentional, and then, you know, serendipity.
Yeah, and it definitely stands out, like caught my eye, and was also, I think the thing that made it stand out is that they were bright colors. You have a bright blue, bright yellow with the pants, and especially on that garage wall. And then as we get to the end, we sort of lose all of that, and it gets really dark. You also, filmed in New York City on New York City streets.
100%.
So, which I love seeing films that are set in the city and the city becomes a character and its background. But any challenges to filming in the middle of the street or just throughout the city where you don't really have control over a lot of things?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. We shot this a while ago now. I mean, New York is a pretty like film friendly city. You know, they're really, really good to work with. Just the mayor's office of film and television. And then also just in general, like people are pretty savvy here and they see a camera, they walk by with very little interest. So no, it really wasn't that difficult. Most of the time, most of what we were able to do was without a permit. And then, or just kind of do stuff shadily. And then the one or two instances where we needed to work with the police to get a permit was towards the end. A lot of the night exterior stuff, because night exterior you need lighting, so to get the truck and everything. So yeah, but no, overall it was pretty smooth.
That's great. I mean, we're hearing most people that are setting films in New York are like, no, that's fine.
Yeah, usually if it's like some random like suburban town, then that's all of a sudden where it's like, well, you actually need to sit down with the councilman. Sorry, fuck off. But yeah, New York's usually pretty good with that stuff.
So I also want to talk a little bit about his descent. For lack of a better word, I think that's actually a great word for it. It's his descent.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you film this chronologically or was it out of order? Because watching it, it doesn't look disjointed. If you film that out of order, it looks like a really nice gradual curve down.
Right.
Which is easy to get if you're filming in order, but sometimes it's a little bit harder if you're not filming chronologically. So what was the filming process? And then how were you able to keep him at the correct level at the correct time?
Right. Yeah, well, so our lead actor, Mike McBride, he's just a great talent in his own right. So there's really not much I have to do to let him, kind of do his thing. But no, we did shoot it largely chronologically. I mean, we shot it in halves. We actually had two different units. We shot half of this in the fall and half of it in the spring. So all of the fall stuff was the first half of the movie, which is largely day exteriors. That's basically most of the film, until I think the midpoint is kind of around when he has the confrontation with his girlfriend. And then we shot that, the girlfriend stuff, and basically everything that comes after it in the spring. There were some logistical reasons why we did that, but it did sort of work out that he had this nice little trajectory. But no, at the end of the movie, the character kind of like really breaks down and gets really emotional. And I thought maybe we could cover it from one, maybe two angles, get one take. He has to kind of blubber crying and all that stuff. We ended up getting like 7 takes of him just going from 0 to 12 each time. And then at the end, Mike turns to me and goes, "Did you get what you need?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got what I need. It's good. You're fine. Go, here's a tissue." So he's just a great talent to work with.
So I also working with on the aspect of writing it and creating it that way, it ends perfectly.
Yeah.
And so was that anything that, okay, we need to figure out how we're going to end this, or let's workshop a couple different endings, because that ending is the whole film is punctuated by that last moment.
Right.
So perfectly. And when it happened, I should have expected it because it's so perfect, but it also caught me off guard, which is great. So was that from the get-go, was that how you were ending it, or was it something that let's try a couple different things until we find the absolute best way to end this?
Right. Writing this thing, especially because it is such a weird movie, and you described it kind of like a descent. It really wasn't a very cerebral process writing it. I kind of just worked on it, and I was like, "Here's the script, let's shoot it." I mean, when I was younger, when I was in film school and stuff, I was probably very into all that Sid Fieldsy save the cat, structure and setting up your theme and set up and payoff. I think that stuff is so good to learn and then unlearn it, just so that it's in your DNA. You're not really thinking about it, but it is there. So yeah, obviously the ending, it is really built. A lot is building to that, and it felt like an appropriate note to end on. But it really was kind of just letting your intuitions guide you and just starting in one place and kind of knowing we were going to take this weird dark turn and just wherever that turn, that's sort of the basic thing I knew. And then from there, it was just sort of writing and seeing what happens.
Oh, I love that you let that guide you, because like I said, it's the whole film is punctuated with that ending, and it's just a perfect way to end it. Like I think at the end, when I finished watching it, I went, oh yeah, that's exactly how you should end this.
That's what he deserves. That's what that character deserves. You know what I mean?
Exactly what he deserves. I feel bad, but that's what he deserves.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much, first of all, for making this film and submitting it for the chain. Thank you for sharing it, not only with us, but with allowing us to share it with our community. And especially, thanks for taking time out of your day to come talk to us about the film. I know these are weird times, and this isn't the ideal talk back, but this was fantastic. And it was a pleasure talking to you and getting to know a little bit about you as a filmmaker and the process behind this film.
Totally. No, likewise. Thank you, Patrick. And thank you guys for actually, doing something and, making the best out of an unideal situation. And I think we're all happy we still have some way to access each other's films and communicate and all that stuff. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.